This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh, takes a hop off the path.
You gotta be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You gotta hit it into the hill, one hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome back to the Sub 70 podcast for the second time this season, Troy Merritt, two-time PGA Tour winner, and I'm looking forward to this conversation of talking about the second win. Congratulations.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me back on.
First off, has to be great to get that second victory. From talking to the guys from the podcast, one victory is nice, but from what I hear from the guys and get your opinion, having that second one sort of shows that the first one's not just a one-off week that you got hot, that you can do it twice, and it's kind of a big accomplishment. So how's it feel, and sort of what's your thoughts on that second win?
Yeah, after that first one, it was nice to know that you can win on the PGA Tour, and then, it was a couple of years before the second one, but the second one was, like you said, it's more validation, and it's validating for me because the game is changing. The young kids coming out now just hit it so far, and they've got great short games. They can putt really well. It can go really low, and my game isn't about distance. I got to plot my way around the golf course. I got to play for angles. I need to have good weeks on the greens, and I didn't know if that kind of game would still hold up against the games that are coming out of college now, and it was nice to see that my game's still relevant on tour, that I can still get the job done, I can still handle myself coming down the stretch, and as a result, very, very excited about getting that second win and having 2 more years out here on tour.
Interesting you're talking about your ball striking. I was looking at the statistics for the week, and it kind of goes against an old adage, but your ball striking was insane good. You were 15 strokes gained over the field tee to green that week, but 51st in putting, which you can kind of take away that I'm assuming you had 9 million different looks at birdies, but the old adage, drive for show, putt for dough, the numbers kind of disprove that giving yourself quality ball striking, which gives you quality looks at putts, sort of outweighs just putting great for the whole week, but the ball striking not be there. So did it feel like your ball striking was that crazy good for the week? And then obviously you made enough putts, but what was sort of your take on the performance from a golf swing, from a putting standpoint for the week?
Well, you have to look at the course conditions for the week. We played the ball up all week because the golf course was underwater for most of the week. So there's no rollout in the fairways. The ball doesn't have any opportunity to bounce out of the fairways and into the rough. You get the ball in hand. There weren't a whole lot of long par fours. You're hitting low irons to wedges. The greens were very receptive. They weren't bouncing off the greens either. So if you hit the green, it was probably going to stick on the green. So as a result, my fairways and greens were, like you said, very high for the week. But I hit a lot of shots close to the hole as well, and I putted really well the first 2 days, going out in 62 and 67. And I putted pretty well on Saturday, just didn't get anything really to go in. And Sunday, the same thing. I hit a lot of good putts. They just didn't want to go in. And, I think we ended up with negative strokes game putting for the week. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that out of my 5 bogeys, 3 of them were 3 putts, and another one was a 3 putt from the fringe. So I missed a couple little ones, and that really hurts that strokes game putting. But for the most part that week, I struck the ball very well. I hit my driver very well. A lot of great wedge shots, a lot of great low iron shots. Didn't have to put any stress on my short game, which is huge. And I rolled the ball nicely. And, when you're hitting a vast majority of the greens, like I said, you're not going to make a majority of the putts. You're going to miss your fair share. But we were fortunate enough that week to make more than our fair share and come out on top.
When you shoot a 62 around like that, like you did on Thursday, and you're firing on all 10 cylinders, let's just call it the zone for lack of a better word, does it feel like it's going slow? Does it just seem super easy? What sort of mindset do you have that you're playing really well, but to keep the pedal down and keep it going, is it hard to keep that aggression, or does that round just feel super, super easy?
It was the third time that I shot 10 under par on tour. The first few times coming at Harbor Town, at Hilton Head, and when I won at Quicken Loans at RTJ. And all of them felt a little bit different. The one at Harbor Town, everything it just felt right on the flag, and it just had to get it on the green to make the putt for birdie. And I was pretty calm, but at the same time I had a few nerves. I did a good job taking one shot at a time, but I also birdied the last 4 holes, so I came in pretty strong. Quicken Loans, I got off to a really hot start. I birdied the first 5 holes, had a 3-putt bogey, even had 11 birdies that day. But, and same thing, it just felt like if I could get the putter inside 15 feet, I was going to make it. And there were still some nerves there as well. And in Kentucky at Keene Trace, I never really felt any nerves. I didn't feel like I was going low. I just trying to give myself really good opportunities. And it wasn't like I had any great stretches, where I'd make 4 or 5 birdies in a row. It just came every so often. So it was a little different feeling in that there weren't any runs, but we did a great job. The hardest part is just staying in the moment and focusing on one shot at a time and not getting ahead of yourself. It's very easy after you make 3, 4 birdies in a row to think, oh man, this is going to be a good 7, 8, 9 under par round. And all of a sudden you make a bogey and you make a bogey on the back nine and you shoot 2 under. And you think, well, what just happened there? Well, you got ahead of yourself. And that's the hardest thing about going low. So it was nice, at least, those 3 rounds to keep everything in the moment and keep pushing forward and making putts and shooting some good numbers.
A lot of that, too, of being out on tour for as long as you have and then going low before, that experience previously kind of help with this round for that mindset to know what you sort of had to do to keep that train rolling in the right direction? Is that just sort of experience as well, where you did it the third time and it's actually easier because of doing it in the past and your experience on tour?
Yeah, a little bit. In the first couple of times, I went low quite a bit in college and as an amateur. I had a 59 once and a 61, 11 under 61, and a 62 in college and 63. And just going low, it comes out every now and then. You have to relish it when it comes out because it doesn't happen all the time. If it would, we'd set scoring records all the time, and it just doesn't happen. But just knowing that, what to look for, how you notice how you're feeling and what's best to focus on when you're going low is key. And the more you do it, I'm not going to say the easier it gets because it's not easy to do, but just knowing that you've done it before does help out for sure.
Sunday during the tournament of the Barbasol, kind of a strange day, right? There was a bunch of start stops. How many holes did you get in, and how hard was that to kind of, get ready to go out, then we're not going out, then you're going out, then we'll try to get as many holes in, but you knew you're not going to finish. I'm sure it's sort of an odd day on the PGA Tour for a final round.
It is, and I think all of the wins I've had as a professional have all been weather delayed, and you're playing makeup for most of the week. But Sunday was a little bit different in the fact that I actually didn't hit one competitive shot on Sunday. I was supposed to have about a 2:40 tee time, I believe. And we got pushed back a couple hours, and I ended up getting out to the golf course at about 2 o'clock to eat and watch the end of the Open and just kind of hang out. And then we got pushed back till almost 7, and then my final tee time ended up being about 7:50 on Sunday night. So I got warmed up, I got ready to play basically 2 holes of golf, and was going through my full warm up, was getting back out to the putting green at about 7:30, and they blew the horn at about 7:35, so about 15 minutes for my tee time. And it was just a weird day, kind of sitting around all day. The only difference between that day and any of the other delayed days we've had throughout my career is that we got to watch the Open. So without the Open, it would have been an awful day of just sitting around and waiting. Yeah,
so it's sort of good to let your mind just to sort of relax, watch the British. Yeah, just sort of when it's time to go to work, you go to work, but otherwise it was a good, for lack of a better word, distraction or something to do for the time.
Yeah, you get the chance to be a golf fan, which we all are. We all want to be over at the Open. We've all, watched it growing up. There's something special about getting up really early and watching the British Open. And, we're still little kids in that respect. And Carnoustie was a great golf course, and they had a great leaderboard, and it was fun watching Francisco pull it off. And, a lot of guys really appreciated and really enjoyed getting to watch the Open.
So then on Monday, you're out there now. The field is bunched. It's going to be a bit of a shootout. What was sort of your focus that day of what you needed to do to win? And was there a couple shots, or was there a situation where it helped you get over that finish line to get the win?
It definitely helped coming out and birdieing the first hole, and should have birdied the second hole. We just had to get up and down from about 25 yards, and we were unable to do so. So that would have been nice, but Billy got off to a good start and got it going early. I made a poor bogey on 5 and followed up with a nice birdie on 6. And then the hole-out eagle on 8 from about 130 yards got us back in the solo lead just for a little bit before Billy made another birdie, but made the turn at 21 under par. Billy was sitting there. Richie was sitting there. And figured, with the way the course was playing, with the way it was set up, with what holes were on that backside, I figured Billy and Richie would get it to at least 23 under. So that, that set a number in my head. I have to obviously at least get to 23, and I'd love to get to 24. And when they got through 15 and 16 and they were still sitting there at 22 under, I tried really hard to throw in a birdie on 13 and just missed it because 14 was a birdie hole, short par 5. And we got our birdie there. And then 15, I had another good look at birdie and put all my energy and effort into getting that one. And fortunately, that one went in to get us to 23 under. And when we got to 23, I figured actually then that we were sitting pretty good because 17, even though it was a par 5, was playing back into a cool north breeze to a back pin, and you just really couldn't get there in 2, and it was tough to get the wedge shot close in 3. So I was kind of waiting on 16 fairway, waiting for them to get through the 17th green, seeing what they made, and after they both posted pars, I got just a little bit more conservative on my lines on 16 and 17 to make sure I didn't cause any stress or have to struggle for par, and gave it 2 good looks at birdie, didn't make either one, and with 18 being a par 3, you kind of have to assume that nobody's going to make birdie, but you can't put it out of your head. And I know Billy gave it a good look, just slipped out for birdie. But yeah, after I didn't hear any roars. I knew if we can just get it on the green and tap it in for par, we'd have a pretty good chance. And then of course Tom Lovelady with his length gets home in 2 on 17, 2 putts for birdie to get 1 behind us. And now I've got to think about 18 a little bit more. And after he came up about 40 feet short, I tried my hardest to be a little more aggressive and get inside of him just in case he made it. I needed to know the situation before I hit my final putt, and after he missed it, I knew we were 2 putts for the win, and then we took care of business, and everything went according to plan for us.
Did you see this sort of coming? Because the trend line's been pretty good. Looking at some, of the events leading up to the win, your T12 at St. Jude, T17 Quicken Loan, T43 at John Deere. Were you working anything specific? Did you see the trend line of this good play kind of continuing, or was there any? Was there any new things you were trying to do that kind of got you the second victory?
This year has been the most consistent for me as a professional in regards to making cuts. I've just not gone anywhere except for backwards, usually on the weekends. So going into that event, I think I had made 15 of 22 cuts, but I was still outside the top 125, which shouldn't happen, but it was because I couldn't get the job done on the weekend. And I've just worked on staying real consistent with the ball striking. Got a new caddy on the bag back in April at the Valero, and we worked really hard on short game. We've made 9 out of 10 cuts since he's come on the bag, and a lot of it has to do with being able to get the ball up and down when we miss the green. And the only things that I've really changed is that I did put a new set of irons in the bag in June in Hartford the week after the U.S. Open, the V6 Raw irons from Wilson. And they're absolutely phenomenal. I love them. And then I put my old putter back in the bag for John Deere that I had taken out of the bag earlier this season at Pebble. And I got it regripped, put a smaller version of the Super Stroke grip on it, which I've never used. And as a result, at the John Deere, it led to 21 birdies and an eagle. Kentucky, I think we had 23 birdies and 2 eagles. And then this last week in Canada, we had another 18 birdies. So putter's rolling nicely. The ball striking is still pretty consistent. We had a good weekend in Kentucky, and that's just kind of the key. Our first 2 rounds, scoring averages is 69 and change, which is very solid. You're not going to miss many cuts shooting 69 in the first 2 rounds. But just to keep it going on the weekends, and that's been the focus the last 2 months. What do we need to do on the weekend to keep it going? And it just kind of came down to taking it one shot at a time. Try not to get too many back at once, because I was focused on trying to get 3-4 birdies before I got one, and as a result, I make a bogey or two and go straight backwards. So just getting the mindset right on the weekends has really helped out, and we'll keep that going the rest of the summer.
Yeah, I'm assuming the putter has earned its way back into the bag for the rest of the season, making that many birdies the last 3 events.
Yeah.
It's not going to be punished anymore, right? It's staying in.
No, yeah. Well, she's got 2 victories under her belt. I've used it for the majority of the last 4 years. I took it out of the bag last summer for a little bit. Had a top 10 with the Odyssey that I put in, and then I had it in the bag all up till Pebble. And the only reason it came out was because I accidentally left it in my son's golf bag when I went down to Pebble. So my wife had to ship it down to me, and I put in some time with the Odyssey again. And as a result, I tied for 8th in Pebble that week. So I kept the putter in the bag for a good long stretch. And after it just didn't feel quite as comfortable anymore, I made the switch, and the switch worked out.
And then bingo, another win on tour. Monday night, do you have a fun celebration? Is it more relief? Is it let's throw a party? How did you celebrate, I guess, when I'm asking? And then also, what does this sort of do? I mean, you have the 2-year exemption. You're getting to Kapalua. I'm assuming you're in the PGA Championship at Belle Reve as well. Is that correct?
Yep.
So
yep,
then
that's
just,
correct.
Yeah, what's the, what did you do to celebrate? What does this bring to the table for the next, say, 2.5 years? And then looking forward to the PGA Championship and then the playoffs, how do you see the fall run coming up here?
Yeah, so it was nice. The difference between win 1 and win 2 is, the time of day that we got to finish. I learned after that first win, I stayed up all night answering messages, from friends and family and people, on social media. And as a result, it wiped me out that whole next week at Akron, and I was awful at Firestone. And the nice thing about this win in Kentucky was we finished at about noon to 12:30, and I was back in my room shortly after 2:00, and it gave me the opportunity to do some interviews and answer some messages. But I took it a lot slower. I didn't get to all of them. I kind of took the next couple of days to answer as many as I could, and as a result, I was a lot fresher for Canada. And I played pretty solid. It was a little loose on Sunday, but I played pretty solid for the week. But I didn't do any celebrating. I ordered a Papa John's pizza, and that was about it. went all out with it. And then, but like you said, you get that 2.5 years of job security, which just helps me to focus on just getting better and getting more consistent. I want to be up there in contention, more than just a couple times a year. I'd like to go out and try to win once or twice a year. That's always the ultimate goal, and get into those big WDCs and all the majors. But it's somewhere that I haven't been in my 7 years on the PGA Tour, and I'm looking forward to getting more opportunities. I've never played Belle Reve next week for the PGA, so I'm excited to get there, and I know all my family's excited. We're going to be making that trip over to Maui and enjoying the start of the year that way. And this fall, I don't have to play as much golf as I've had to in previous years. I think right now it's just kind of looking like Malaysia and South Korea, which are limited field size, no cut, full purse, full points, which is a great way to start your season. And then I'll play in Vegas, which is close to one of my sponsors, MGM. Love the Shriners. They do a great job down at that tournament. So I'll play those 3 events on the PGA Tour and maybe pick up an international event here in the fall, since I've got that opportunity. Kind of looking maybe going over to Japan in the middle of November, seeing if there's any interest there to have me tee it up. And then we'll get cracking when 2019 rolls around after that.
I saw the billboard at the MGM Grand on the Strip. How cool is that of your image with the second win on the marquee, right? Like, how cool is that? That's got to be a great feeling. Like, probably in your wildest days, never probably thought that was going to be a reality of people driving on the Las Vegas Strip and seeing you on the marquee in front of a huge hotel. That's awesome.
Yeah, and a vast majority of them not really caring, which is totally fine.
I thought it was cool.
No, but MGM's been a great partner. They're great people over there. They help us out as much as they can, and made some good friendships over there. So that was pretty cool that they went ahead and did that.
And a sidebar question: when you travel overseas to to the Far East. Is that tough on your system? I don't know if you've done it before, or how long does that take you to kind of get the jet lag and the time and all that stuff when you go back the other direction? Do you have to take a couple of weeks off after that just to sort of recharge the batteries?
Yeah, I found out a few things. I've played Malaysia a couple times. I went over and played in Europe once, well, twice. And it depends on which way you go. When we go over to Malaysia, it's about a 15-hour time change. But there's not too much of an adjustment. The body usually feels pretty good. It takes a long time to get over there. But, it doesn't feel like there's any jet lag. You might get a little sleepy about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's not too hard to keep yourself up till 8 or 9 o'clock. And coming back, I learned the first time I went over there, I tried to play Jackson, Mississippi the week after that, and that was a mistake. It's so much harder when you have to go east. That was affirmed, whenever I have to go to Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, or when I've gone to South America or Scotland or France, whenever you go east more than 2 hours, it takes a few days to let your body figure out what's going on. But when you go west, like when you have to go to Hawaii, it usually you feel even better, I would say, because you're ready to go at 5, 6 in the morning. You get up, you get off to a good start, and you keep going throughout the day. So which way you're going, but I have learned a little bit doing my travels internationally.
Well, my last question I have from you is from our friend Duffy, who is the tour rep for Wilson Golf on the PGA Tour, and he wanted me to ask you. He said you're a huge Cleveland Browns fan. Football season's getting close. What's the outlook for this season, and do you think you'll be in misery again this year, or is there some hope?
Yeah, the outlook is that no matter how the Browns do, I'll rib him about his White Sox and his Blackhawks. So I'm not too worried about Duffy. It's not going to make me feel any more worse or better if the Browns only win 4 times this year, but they'll be better this year. I'm excited for football season to start. Not only do we have the Browns trying to make amends for basically my whole life.
You're a brave soul. I mean, and you stayed on the train forever too. You've never fallen off and said, "I got to root for somebody else on this one."
No, but they were good when I was a kid. They had Bernie Kosar and Eric Metcalf and Webster Slaughter. So I'm not a Denver Broncos fan by any means, and I prefer not to see highlights of the drive and John Elway. But I'm a Browns fan. We'll win 4 or 5 times this year, call it a success, get another top 5 pick, and move on. Well,
yeah, and as a Bears fan out here, right, it hasn't been much better for the last 15 years either. So, I mean, I'm sure Duffy's a Bears fan as well, and we don't have much to talk about. So, it's been ugly.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time. This was fun. I mean, to talk to you earlier in the year, and talking about the progression you were making, and to kind of see you get over the finish line. And it's fun to kind of see the guys who have come on the podcast, and I've gotten to know a little bit, have the success. And you're in good position here for the major coming up and the playoff run. It's going to be fun to watch. So we'll keep our eyes on the scores that you're shooting, but hopefully next 4 or 5 weeks you got some really good runs and kind of keep the pedal down and try to get another victory out there. If you're playing well, keep it going.
Yeah, that'd be nice. The goal here, the next few events, got the PGA and into the playoffs, is to get to that Tour Championship somewhere where I've never been before, and somewhere that opens up a lot of doors the following year. So you need to play well here these next few weeks and lock up that trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you get your next victory, we'll be calling you and kind of recapping that one. Best of luck in the next few weeks, and thanks again for coming on, Troy. Greatly appreciate it.
Yep, I appreciate it too. Thanks for having me.